Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Tidal Flooding Talk, brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition in partnership with our broadcast partner at TriX57 News. I am Joe Martucci. We have the whole gang here tonight. We got Dan Skeldon. We got Palma Shiles. It is late June. Summer is in full force now. Kids are out of school. It's going to be a great segue for our next guest here, Scott Bonner from Scott's Docks. But first, we'll kick it over to you, Palma. It really now feels like summer's here. Memorial Day. I think you said this. I don't know if you said this to me on the phone or if you said this to me in Tidal Flight Talk. It's like we get this big rush for Memorial Day, and it's kind of but now it's back, and now it's here.
Right. The next best thing, is 4th of July weekend, right? So
Right.
I'm glad summer is here. I think it puts most people in a better mood. The only
Does that include you?
Yes, except the only problem that I face is what to wear to work, because the office is cold, but it's like 90 degrees outside. So that's my only issue. But anyway, we have a really great guest tonight, Scott from Scott's Dock. Please tell us about yourself, Scott, and your business that you have in Margate and the legacy that you're carrying on.
Well, thank you for having me, Palma. I don't have wardrobe issues. I wear the same stuff all the time. The Scott Stock T-shirt, my go-to 7 days a week. But I'm the third generation owner of Scott Stock in Margate City, New Jersey. My grandparents acquired our property in the winter of 1958. My grandfather built our original rental boat fleet, which is kind of the forefront of what our business provides, is boat rentals and back bay access. And my grandfather built those boats at a White Jersey Cedar in the winter of 1958 and opened the doors with my grandmother, Blanche Scott, in the spring of 1959. And he had it until he passed away in 1994. My mother ran the marina from 95 to 21, and she passed in 21, and I've had it for the last few years now, going into season 4.
Well, Scott, I want to thank you for coming on, especially knowing you would be with two meteorologists who have been the bearer of not so good news, for weather-dependent businesses. We hope to turn that around now. July 4th is in sight. I mean, it's going to be hot, humid, dry, and great weather for your business. But thanks for coming on after how would you describe the spring that we've had?
It was wet and windy. That's pretty much wraps it up. But you can't wait on the weather, getting customers' boats ready for the summer season, and the rental boats fired up and ready to go, and the marina all stocked, and we trudge on through whatever the weather is to get ready for when it's going to break eventually.
And Scott, you got a front seat for, one of the more, obviously the back bay is the, there's so much pleasure that can be had on it recreationally, but, from our standpoint, watching tidal flooding, that is ground zero for, bringing in water to a lot of our coastal communities. So how is it having like that front row seat, watching storms across come to the bay, watch wind shifting, watch, tides going up and down? You're right there, front row seats, no one better to kind of, monitor what the back bays bring to the coastal communities.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's a great seat to have access to. I live here, so I live above the bait and tackle shop on Amherst Avenue, and I grew up in this building also. So I've really had, and I'm grateful to have had the bay in my backyard as a kid growing up. It was better than Disneyland for me. I consider myself to be a bay rat. I don't know if you've heard that term or not before, but unless it was surfing, I never really hung out on the beach often. I did bay-like activities, and there's really a whole nother world back there that I believe is kind of underrated and not accessed as much. And yes, I've seen all sorts of very cool and inconvenient weather at the same time.
Scott, tell us about, in your time being in Margate, the buildup of the bay side of Absecon Island, and what have you seen with coastal flooding over the decades as well?
So, I've definitely seen a change in weather patterns. I think that like your summer thunderstorms have kind of changed a little bit in nature of like the prominent wind directions that they blow in and severity. Um, we still get some good flood tides with the moon cycles and everything, and all that stuff is directly affects our business, and I think that I don't know if there's an answer to making any of it better or worse, or if development has impacted that in a super negative way. But I do know that there is a lack of dredging in the back bays that whether or not that would help the flooding standpoint is probably above my scientific pay grade, but it makes navigation difficult.
Well, you bring up a good point and something, we talk about, too, which is, we want to protect the island. Like that's number one. We get that. But it does, I think it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that a lot of the protection for a long time was on the beach side of things, on the Atlantic Ocean side. And, with the efforts that we've done at the New Jersey Coastal Coalition and others too, we're recognizing the bay for, the ability or need to build that up. Do you share in that sentiment?
Yeah, I think that a lot of the beach replenishment ends up in the bay, and that it actually not only enhances the property that's available on the beach, but a lot of that sand ends up in the back bays. And the simple comparison, I guess, is if you have a glass of water that's half filled with sand and then the rest of it's filled with water. If you remove that bottom layer of sand, you'd be able to hold a higher quantity of water as a result, right?
Sure.
So that's kind of where the dredging things comes into mind. A lot of that's filled in. You see boaters stuck on the bottom almost daily at low tide, and it's an inconvenience for a lot of the marinas there too. We haven't been able to afford to do it privately, but a lot of the places down the street are having to hire contractors on their own and keep their slips open and available for the public.
Now you provide boat rental services too, right? So is that something that you prep these people on, or what advice do you give them if they're taking one of your boats out?
So we have a lot of inexperienced boaters that are getting out on the bay, and we have a custom chart that we had designed that highlights low areas and channels and where to go and where not to go, boundaries and so on and so forth. But even if you spend 20 or 30 minutes with a customer in the store with the chart, and it can be difficult out there, and there's so many places where you can get stuck, it's hard to avoid it. Even experienced boaters like myself, if you spend any amount of time out on the water, you're going to get stuck somewhere sooner or later,
Now, is that
Understood.
like the worst case scenario? What does someone do when that happens?
You have to have like AAA for the water. It's called CTO or Towboat US, or a couple of companies that do it, and they sell a membership and will ideally be able to come and pull you off of the mud. But worst case, you're stuck there through that tide cycle until it comes back in. And it can
All right, we're gonna take it. Oh, good, Scott. Sorry, I was gonna take a break, but you can finish.
I was just going to say it can be dangerous also, if somebody's moving at a fast speed and hits a sandbar or something, that can be fatal at times.
Unfortunately, so. All right, we're gonna take a brief break.
On that note.
Yeah. Now, on that note, we're gonna take a break. Everyone can mentally reset themselves. We'll come back on the other side with Tidal Flooding Talk. Thanks to the New Jersey Coastal Coalition, your flood insurance bills are lower and your streets safer from the reality of flooding. Since beginning in 2013, we build more resilient shoreline communities. Our member towns develop and share in best practices that anticipate future concerns and create flooding solutions. From our town-specific free web app for flooding information to our weekly Tidal Flooding Talk show, we focus on flooding 24/7. Visit www.njcoastalcoalition.com for more.
Welcome back. You're watching Tidal Flooding Talk. We're brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition, and we would like to remind our viewers to protect natural floodplains. Floodplains, like salt marshes and stream beds, are nature's way of managing floodwaters while improving the environment. Help them do their job. Reduce boat speeds to minimize erosion, use fertilizer sparingly to protect water quality, and limit hard surfaces in your yard so rainwater can absorb naturally. A little effort goes a long way in protecting your community.
Awesome. And we are back with Scott from Scott's Docks in Margate. We're going to, you mentioned in the break, we were getting a little negative about the dredging and everything like that. Let's talk about some positive things here. It's still early in summer. Are you still in that hopeful, summer's here, the shore is coming alive phase?
Yeah, like you said, the kids are out of school, the island's filling up, and people are starting to kick off this whole summer thing. Weather's getting warmer, which is what we need after a wet, windy spring. So excited to get everybody out on the water and catch some fish and crabs or cruise, whatever they're into.
Would you say there's like a certain weather condition that's best for business? Like, is it just as simple as it's hot and sunny, or do people actually, like, I would speak from a little experience, sometimes that, like, hey, let's rent a boat or a jet ski would be on like that cloudy day that's not necessarily raining, but maybe it's not the best day to be like laying out at the beach either?
Yeah, that's a thing. That's definitely the case. We see some people that would normally go on the beach, but an overcast day maybe gets them down on the bay to do some kayaking or boating or fishing for crabs or something like that. But I would say that hot and sunny is the ideal day to be out there,
Gotcha.
Just enough breeze to keep the bugs at bay a little bit better, but not too much to affect the boat while you're trying to fish.
Yeah, you don't want that west to northwest wind, right? That's just the enemy of people who want to recreate along the shore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott, you said you're bay rat, which I love the term, and I was one during my years at the shore as well. Love the back bays, lived in Ocean City, and just explored every nook and cranny of them. Being that bay rat, having that front row seat. Well, what are some of the more memorable weather events? We've talked about the lousy weather, the cool, windy stuff this spring. We're hopeful for the hot, sunny summer. That's what we're hoping for. But back in time, what are some of the memorable Back Bay events you experienced, and what was it like to be along the Back Bay during them?
So Sandy obviously is the big one for me. That was something, I hope I never experience again, but probably not out of the realm of possibility, obviously.
Now, did you evacuate for Sandy, or did you ride it out along the shore?
No, man, my mom was alive at the time and running this place, and she wasn't going to leave, so I sure wasn't going to leave her here on her own, Dan, And there was a lot, stuff was floating all over the place. It was a mess. So it was, I was outside most of the day, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, because we always, as meteorologists and emergency managers, urge people to evacuate. We know not everyone heeds the warnings, but a lot of the times, those that do stay and ride it out sometimes are even more likely to evacuate the next time. Are you in that camp, or would you say, it depends on the storm, it depends on the situation?
No, my family are stubborn people. And I think I inherited part of that gene, and I can't really impress upon somebody how much pride I have in owning this place and keeping it going for another generation. And I just couldn't leave it. You know, it's like a farm, like we talked about. You know, it's something that you're not going to leave to get messed up in bad weather. So there's a lot of maintenance that's required in one of those events, and somebody's got to stay. In my position, you know, in my opinion, I'm sure there's tons of people that will disagree with me, but I wouldn't leave my place in a weather event like that.
Okay.
Now,
Fair enough.
what have you done to continue your family's legacy over at Scott's Dock? Because I think you did sell yourself short a little bit in the beginning when you introduced yourself and talked about the dock, because I know that you you know, eat, sleep, breathe Scott's Dock. So what are some of the things that you've tried to either maintain or even improve to really continue that legacy?
Yeah, so thank you, Palma. I appreciate the kind words. But like I said, my mother passed away a few years ago, so I wanted to honor her. The business is named Scott's Dock. My family's last name was Scott. So my mother's maiden name and my grandparents' names who opened the place were Ray Scott and Bland Scott. My mom was Robin Scott. So long story longer, I figured the building's name would honor my grandparents always, and what could I do for my mom? So we got a 40-foot pontoon boat and named it the Captain Robin after my mother. And that boat is really, really beautiful. And we run back bay flounder fishing trips with that 7 days a week. So we go flounder fishing in the back bay for 4 hours from 8 to 12 and 1 to 5 daily. Saturday nights, we're going to be doing sunset cruises. So we'll do a 7 to 9 walk-in sunset cruise. You can bring some drinks and go catch golden hour and listen to some yacht rock or something like that while you're cruising around. So that's what the big one, my big accomplishment was to buy a big boat in my mom's name and keep that thing floating around in the back bay, because she was truly a steward to the back bays of Margate for 30 plus years out here. And the main focus on our business, my family's business here, is to give public access to the bay for people that don't have it. You know, like I said, I'm super grateful to live where I am and do what I do, but our customers are coming from Delaware County and Pennsylvania, New York, and there's really nowhere, unfortunately, that you can go stick your foot in the water in the bay on Amherst Avenue in Margate anymore. So I'm really prideful to be able to have open doors for people to get in a kayak, go on the Captain Robin, rent one of the boats that they can drive around on their own. We do 6-person private charters also for people to go fishing and crabbing and swimming and pull them around on a tube. And it's just really a special place that not only doesn't exist as often as it did at one time in Margate, but for the whole country, I think.
I would agree with that with the whole country for sure, and definitely in Margate, as you said. We're gonna take our last break here. We're gonna come back on the other side. We're gonna wrap up with Scott Bonner of Scott's Dock.
Welcome back to the third and final block of this week's Tidal Flooding Talk with my co-host Palma Shiles and meteorologist Joe Martucci. I am Dan Skeldon, and we're joined for our continued conversation with Scott Bonner from Scott's Docks. Scott, pleasure talking with you. I wanted to ask you something too. You know, as a meteorologist, I was always aware living along the shore, you know, tide times, you know, knew my moon cycles, knew my tide times. I think if anyone knows it more than a meteorologist. It's probably someone in your profession. Are you like a walking tide table? Do you know like high tides this time this day, full moons this day? Like, since it's so important to your business, how much do you monitor the tide tables in those moon phases daily and monthly?
Yeah, we watch it daily. Primarily to recommend fishing advice to people. That's a big part of going out there and trying to catch fish in the back bays is your tide times and fishing around high tide mostly. Trying to avoid low tide when you're crabbing so you don't get stuck places. So that plays enormously into our business. And I want to send people out on our rental boats and see them come back with smiling faces and dinner. So I'm giving them the best possible advice I can come up with to send people out to be successful.
Yeah, you're making me think of something, Scott. Do you actually, at the dock, do you actually clean the crabs for people too if they want?
Absolutely. Yeah,
So you've been ripping off backs of crabs for 30 years.
I've been filleting fish I'm 37, but I've probably been doing it for close to 30 of those 37 years.
Okay. Yeah, right on. Cool.
Yeah.
Now, when you're booking charters for people to either rent boats or you take them out, how fast can that change because of either, weather or tides? How much advance notice would someone have if they had to cancel a charter?
So, we try to get things we try ideally do it 24 hours ahead of time, but we are constantly rescheduling things due to weather. Unfortunately, it's tough to work around that, and get everybody out exactly when they want to go. Most people are flexible, and we can shuffle things around and get it to work for everybody. But it's definitely one of the challenges.
Do you ever have people insist, like, I still want to go out on this boat, even if the weather is not okay with that? Even if there's a small craft advisory out?
Yeah, some people want to go. We as long as it's not unsafe, we'll go. The fish don't mind the rain, so as long as the customers don't, we'll take you out. And we want everybody to be safe and have a good time, obviously. So thunder and lightning put things out of the question, and high wind, we won't be doing it. But if you don't mind getting wet or being cold, we'll take you and go.
God, how much prep, like when you have a bigger storm coming, whether it be a tropical system, a nor'easter, big squall lines, like how much does that set you kind of like scurrying around, like as far as defensive measures or preventative measures, like, being susceptible on the bay? Is there a lot of prep work for those bigger weather events that you may or may not have advance warning for?
Oh yeah, yeah. We if it's gonna get real, then we'll empty the marina and get all of ours and all of our customers that are slip tenants boats out of the water for the event, and that takes 2 to 3 days to do. So we try to watch all of you guys super closely all the time and take all the information that all of the meteorologists in southern Jersey are putting out and make the best educated decision to pull that trigger when it's time. Those,
I, I,
that's
go
that's
ahead, Scott.
the thing I have nightmares about, man. That's something I try not to think about if I don't have to.
Sure. So weather, right? I mean, I got to ask the weather question here as Dan, but how have you seen weather forecasts and the way you think about weather change from, 30 years ago to now?
You guys are putting me in a tight spot here, man. I could have a lot to say about the forecast and weather coming out to.
That's right. It's an open platform, Scott. You can go ahead.
I'm just kidding, but yeah, it's something that I watch every day, and I know it's a tough job to do. The weather's unpredictable on the shore points and on the island more so than it is on the mainland, and it's a challenge. It's a pain in the butt when it's forecasted to. I guess the one thing that is the trickiest is like summer thunderstorms, right? Pop-up storms. So you've got a hot sunny day on a Saturday afternoon, and you have to put that icon on there that's got the little raindrops and the lightning bolt on it that can.
Dan, see what you do, Dan? You're putting
Yeah,
a damn icon on there.
It can change everybody's plans. So, I guess if I had one qualm with the forecast, it'd be some kind of notice next to that icon that identifies it to be like an evening event or something,
Scott, do you find that like the percentage chance of precip that a lot of folks put on their 7-day now, 30%, is that helpful, or is that does that kind of make things even more confusing?
So I think it's helpful, but it can be misleading. Like the thunderstorm icon, if you see that 70% chance, it doesn't identify it to be possibly between the hours of 5 and 8 in the evening. So, from the outside looking in, if somebody just sees that rain percentage, they might just write the day off rather than look into detail to see that it's overnight or early in the morning or not going to affect their outdoor day.
Yep.
Yeah, that's super true. And of course, Dan does an excellent job. He's not throwing in that thunderstorm icon just to get people not to go to the beach. But, something, I'm sure, Dan, you probably do something along these lines. I actually time out like what that window could be. So like, we have a day today when we're filming. Thunderstorms were going to be around from like 3 to 7 p.m. Like you're dry after 7, you're dry before 3, right? But it's within that window. And even within that window too, like a thunderstorm, hey, it'll rain for an hour between 3 to 7. Is it a washout? No, of course not. You got plenty of time to be outside and go to the dock, go to marina. But, it's tidbits like that I think are always, helpful for people and always much appreciated too. All right. So we're going to wrap it up here. We definitely appreciate Scott's time. Before he goes, though, we got to ask him the one thing that's been on his mind, tidal flooding or otherwise.
Tidal flooding or otherwise. Yeah, so the tide floods. I think that if you buy and live on the island and aren't under the reality of being affected by high water, then you've moved to the wrong place, and it's something that is a part of daily life on the shore points. I don't have the answers as to, climate change or any of that stuff. These are all super deep conversations and that are all above my pay grade. But I see it with my own eyes. I think it can be a beautiful thing at times on a full moon sunny evening on a Saturday with a beautiful sunset in the background. And I've unfortunately seen it coming in my home and business alike too. So there's a lot of suggestions I guess I could make, but it's that's about it. That's my what first pops to head on tidal flooding.
Perfect. All right, Palma, off to you.
Oh boy, I was not ready. I was just listening to what he had to say.
Should we go to Dan next?
Yeah, go to Dan.
All right, Dan.
Well, for me, it's just the upcoming July 4th holiday weekend is probably my least favorite weekend to forecast. There's so much pressure, as we've talked about. Percentage chance of thunderstorms is everything we do on July 4th outdoors, is weather dependent, and there's always thunderstorms in the forecast. So it's a frustrating time for meteorologists, just as it's a frustrating time for viewers trying to hone in on exactly what those rain chances are. Hopefully, it's a hot, sunny, dry 4th. Otherwise, looking for some headaches for the upcoming 4th, forecasting wise.
Fingers crossed. All right, Paul, you ready?
About a month ago, my daughter Violet, who's 2, was on the Captain Robin with her father, took her out. And she is loving boats and bay life. So I think we might have to take her out on another ride soon at Scott's Dock.
Right on. I'm glad to hear there's another bay rat coming out there.
Wait, you were on, what was it, Fox 29, Scott?
Yeah, Kathy Orr from Orr at the Shore came and took a ride with us.
All right, shout out Kathy Orr.
Yeah, Kathy's great. She's awesome.
Yeah.
Anytime you guys want to come and do any forecasting from the marina or out on a boat or something, you're more than welcome to. Love to have you.
Well,
Okay, yeah, appreciate it. I'll cap this off. I'll make it brief. Joey Chestnut back at the Nathan's 4th of July hot dog eating contest this year. After skipping last year due to a contract dispute with Major League Eating, the world has healed itself, and he will be back on the 4th of July. And I have seen him once in Coney Island live. I would recommend doing it once. You don't have to do it more than once, but definitely do it once. That's what I got. All right. We will be back with you next Monday, or next Tuesday, another episode of Tidal Flooding Talk. We're going to have Alexa Trishler on from WWL TV in New Orleans, Louisiana. She is an EHT, Egg Harbor Township native in New Jersey, is now in Louisiana. We're going to talk about the tidal flooding differences between the two. So we'll be back with you next week. Until then, have a happy 4th, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon.